Good morning. I want to welcome everybody to First Fridays. Great to see you on this December morning. Want to back into Thanksgiving just a little bit and let you know how thankful we are for all of you. Without your support, your attendance, your ideas, we wouldn't have what we have, and just happy that you're here today. We have a great program lined up. Great to see all of you. I do want to introduce Terry DeMattis. She will wave with Lutheran. We're so thankful that Lutheran allows us to use the facility here. It's just a wonderful facility. It accommodates us very well. Scott's got everything set up. I think we're ready to go. Jerry is going to introduce our fantastic speaker. Good morning, Keith.
If it doesn't sound like this projects well, can you hear me in the back? Leanne, can you hear me? All right, good. This microphone works for our audio video that we'll be putting on YouTube later, hopefully later today or early next week. I have the great opportunity to introduce Keith. I've known Keith for probably 30 plus years. He worked with one of my older brothers who's in the room this morning, my brother Jeff, and they worked at Elmhurst. Any Elmhurst grads in the room? Look at that. You got two. I don't think you taught either one of them. But it's exciting to have Elmhurst grads. But when I first met Keith, he was a young coach. We're going to call you a young coach back in the day. And I just saw his warm spirit, his outgoing energy that he showed to his athletes, and just how dynamic he was. And over the years, our paths would cross. And when I moved back to Fort Wayne, we had lunch several times. And I just knew Keith was going to be somebody that we wanted to have speak at First Fridays. As you see his little resume, he's done a lot. And I think one of the greatest things that I can say about Keith before he comes up to speak, that he has encouraged so many people through not just his coaching of basketball, but just teaching young people about life. He has influenced thousands and thousands of people to make them better. So let's give a warm First Fridays to Keith Edmonds.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. Before I go into to my talk, can we just say a word of prayer for just a moment? Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for this opportunity. I thank you for the people that are here today. I pray that you would just bless this time, and my message would fall on great hearts and great ears, and people would be encouraged. In Jesus' name, amen. It's really interesting for me to be here. I have been coming to these for years, and gotten a chance to listen to all kinds of dynamic speakers, and some of you are here in the room. But I want to say, first of all, thank you for accepting your call to leadership. It's not an easy thing. Sometimes you feel like you're all by yourself, feel like you're alone. You definitely are going to run into some challenges along the way. But the reason why I call this trusting the calling is you have to believe that you've been called. And sometimes that might be a majority of one. And you certainly have experienced that, I'm sure. I have to stay in this box, don't I? Because I like to move around.
It's a coach's box.
Yeah, you don't always have trouble staying in the coach's box. But in my 35 years of 37 years of being in education and being a coach and an administrator and a teacher, I've gotten a chance to experience a lot of things, see a lot of kids come from the primary level all the way up until, and I'll share some stories, and you trust me, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this guy's old. But I've gotten a chance to just experience a lot of things, and certainly did not plan on going into leadership. That wasn't my plan. But it was something that just I kind of evolved into and continue to grow and learn. And many of you that are here today, I continue to follow you on LinkedIn and different places, and certainly are encouraged by some of the things that you share. Couple quick stories. I had a young lady come up to my desk one day. I was a teacher, and she said, Mr. Edmonds, she said, things seem to go better when I'm in charge. I said, really? She said, yes. She said, so do you mind if I take charge? We were doing group work. And she said, do you mind if I take control, or not necessarily take control, but you mind if I lead the group? And I said, Carly, you go right ahead. You take control. So she started giving different people assignments within the group. So then the other kids in the room, they said, well, I want to be in charge. So what we did was, I think we had 5 or 6 groups, and every group had a leader, and they all started making assignments. And it worked out really well. Are you that person? Do things seem to go better when you're in charge? That's one of the things, and in my opinion, that's leadership. I don't think we have to go and find some Wikipedia definition. You know what good leadership is, and just as well as you know what bad leadership is, or what it looks like. It's really interesting. I asked my son, and I have 2 boys that are in leadership. Chad works as in HR at Parkview Hospital, and Kyle works in the College and Career Readiness Program in Fort Wayne Community Schools. So they have all different types of challenges being in their field. But Chad was 6 years old, 5 years old. I said, Chad, what do you want to be? When you get older, what do you want to be? He said, Dad, well, I want to be like you. I said, well, shoot, okay. I want to be a teacher and a coach. I said, all right, I feel pretty good. I said, Mom, Chad says he wants to be just like me. He said, or a Ninja Turtle. Mom, we got some work to do. But it was really interesting because, those guys are doing a tremendous job, and I just appreciate them sharing their leadership track with me, and I just think it's important that, you understand that just because you have the title of being a leader doesn't make you a leader. You have to work for it every day. And people are going to test you. And I'm sure some of you are in that fire right now. And, there are going to be times that you're going to wonder, is this something that I really want to do? Or is it just a stepping stone to something that maybe I'll get into later on? But before I go any further, there's a clip that I found on the internet, and some of you might have seen it before. It's Coach Carol Lawson. She's a former basketball player at Duke University, at Tennessee University, head women's coach now at Duke University. And it just really resonated with me, some of the things that she said and in regards to leadership, because there will be times that it gets very difficult. And you just have to learn how to handle it. And what I mean by handle it is that when you make that decision, you got to trust that you're making the best decision that possibly can be made at that particular time. And it doesn't necessarily get easier, but what it gets is you are able to handle the harder things a little bit better as it comes along. So let's take a look at this clip, and then I'll come back and share my story. This clip, I think I watched this 10 or 12 times, not necessarily in preparation for this, but it just resonated with me. You've got to be able to handle the tough stuff. You've been chosen for this. And the interesting part about being in leadership is that you have to decide, am I going to be a boss or am I going to be a leader? And there's a difference. I'm not saying one is any better than the other, but you have to decide, and you have to make that decision early in your career in leadership. When I accepted my first position way back in 1980, I was a young man that that came out of Indianola, Iowa, Simpson College. And well, all right. All right, let's receive the benediction. Thank you so much for saying that. Yes.
My sister Jamie passed away. She was a cheerleader there. My mom went there.
Oh my gosh. See how God is? Strategically puts the right people here. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Coach's box.
Yeah, because coaches. Yeah. All right. Before I go back now to Simpson College, let me refer to this saying. I had a person share with me one time, and actually shared with me several times. Said, "Son, you call yourself a leader and you don't have any followers, baby, you just out for a long walk." And then she said, "That's scriptural." I'm like, "It is?" She said, "Yes. When you lead, you have to lead and model and prepare yourself for people that will hopefully will follow you because of the guidance that you've accepted. You have to lead from a perspective of humility, not as a right." A lot of people say that they want to be in leadership, but then when you get in that hot seat and that pressure's turned up, either you're going to wilt or you're going to embrace it. So when I came out in 1983, came out of Simpson College, I came here and I was armed with all kinds of knowledge, all these theories, all of these lesson plans. They've shown me how to be a great teacher. So I accepted my first teaching position in Fort Wayne Community Schools. And I didn't care what they gave me. Just give me some kids, lock us in a room, and let's go to work. They said, "Okay, you're going to be a first grade teacher." I don't think you guys understand what I just said. I had 27 6-year-olds that I had to teach whatever 6-year-olds were supposed to learn. And they tested me. And so I said, "Okay, I got to get some help." So I went to a couple of my fellow teachers. I said, "Hey, what do I need to do to be successful with these kids? What do I need to do?" They said, 3 things. You got to remember, if you remember these 3 things, you're going to get it done. Make sure they get to the restroom. Make sure you have recess. And make sure you have plenty of busy work. I said, "Okay, I got that." So first couple days, we got to know each other and things went pretty well. We had 7, 8 recesses a day and, made sure they took potty breaks, 7, 8, 9, 10 times a day, even when they didn't want to go anyway, go to the bathroom. So anyway, we were doing busy work one day and young man comes up to my desk and he says, his name is Antoine, I'll never forget him. He's 43 years old right now. I know I'm old. Anyway, he says, "Mr. Edmonds, I can't get my work done." I said, "Well, why?" He said, "Because Leslie, she's got that long ponytail and it keeps hanging on my desk and I can't get my work done." So I said, "Well, Antoine, just move it out of the way and just keep working." So probably 3, 4, 5 minutes later, she comes up and she's crying. And I said, "What happened?" I said, what happened?" She turns around, she says, "Look, her ponytail that was this long, you know where I'm going, was gone." Antoine had cut and thrown it to the back of the room. So the kids were in shock. I was in shock. How would you have handled that situation? We'll come back to it. Moms are like, "I know what I would have done." My next scenario, and I'm going to come back and just hear your responses later. My next scenario, I accepted the because I had been an assistant coach here in Fort Wayne at Snyder High School, Northside High School, and had worked under great coaches, had learned a lot, and I'm ready to be a head coach. Just like I was ready to be a teacher, I'm ready to be a head coach. So just give me some kids, lock us in the gym, and let's go to work. I accepted a job at Elmhurst High School that traditionally used to be pretty good, but then they had a stretch where they didn't perform as well, had, I don't know how many losing seasons, or just had not accomplished, things that they had thought that they were supposed to accomplish. But I accepted that position. I think Jeff, is Jeff in here? Jeff, you were in my scores table, weren't you?
Yeah, I announced.
Yes. So Jeff knows exactly. And check my story if you want to fact check. So Jeff was he was at my scores table. But so I came in and I accepted this position. They had graduated 10 out of 12 players. Only 2 coming back. The 2 that were coming back, one was a starter and one was a part-time player. So I came into this environment just wanting to do the very best that I can. So my question to you, how do you change a culture or a climate in a program that wasn't accustomed to doing well? We'll come back to that. My third scenario, I accepted a position as an administrator in a school that was closing. Now, mind you, I just come from a school that was closing. So Elmhurst High School was closing. I took the job as an administrator at Paul Harding High School, and they were closing. So you know what they thought when they saw me. Here comes a Grim Reaper. We're going to close. Here he comes. I accepted the position because I wanted to be an administrator. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to take some kids or take a school and change the climate. I accepted that position knowing it was only going to be 1 year. Now, they said they would give me a 2-year contract, so they would find another school for me, which the school was like, don't send him over here. But I accepted that position, and we had to not only keep the kids locked in for a year knowing that their school was going to close, but then we had to transition 950 kids from one school that was primarily black, 95% black, 90% black, maybe I'm a little bit off, and we had to transition them into 4 primarily white schools. How would you have handled that situation? It's really interesting when you decide that you want to go into leadership, because there are going to be things that come at you rapid fire all the time. Christy, if we could flip that next slide. I think people inherently want to be led. They just want to know what direction they're going. And I think it's important that as you take a look at this particular slide, my experiences and research supports that ultimately these 4 things are what people are looking for out of their leaders. They want to be appreciated, they want to be recognized, they want someone that cares, and someone that has empathy. That's it. I don't think that's anything. And I think we as leaders, I want to be encouraged. But I think it's important that if you want the support of the people that you've been given charge over, the people that you are trying to influence and direct, if you want their support, be supportive. Get to know them more than you're Marcia that works in accounting, or you're Jim and you're in charge of custodial work, or whatever their particular title is. Get to know them. One of the things that helped me be successful, and I used to tell my teachers all the time, teach like the best teacher that you ever had. What was it about that particular teacher that made you want to show up every day? How many of you in here right now, if I said, tell me who your favorite teacher is, you could honestly say, and you don't have to necessarily say anything, but you know who that teacher is. What was it about them? And here I am, I'm getting ready to go into my 45th year out of high school, and I can tell you my favorite teacher, if she walked in here right now, because she made a difference. She impacted my life, just like what you're doing. You're impacting people on a daily basis. Trust me when I say people are watching you. They're watching you because you set the tone every day when you come into work. But these 4 things I think are very important. If you get nothing else from this, remember these things. And then I always say, go to sleep. What do I mean by that? After you've put in a full day's work, you've done the very best that you can, you felt like you've tried to answer the call and everything that's been asked of you that particular day, go home and go to sleep. Don't worry about it. Now, I know you're like, yeah, that's easy to say. But you have to get your rest because you're not effective if you don't get rest. You stay there, you're like, okay, I'm going to put in 10 hours a day. And then 10 turns into 12, and 12 turns into 14, and you're doing 15-hour days. So then the next day, you're nothing. You have nothing because you're tired. Don't underestimate rest. You come back in the next day, you get with your team of people, you decide, hey, what did we do that worked? What did we do that didn't work? You rework the initial idea, and then you go at it again. But then, and I say this to every group that I speak to, go to sleep. And I don't know if any of you have ever had anyone tell you that, and I don't know if that's a good leadership thing to share, but someone shared it with me. Get your rest. You want to be the very best that you possibly can be when you come in every day. Get yourself an accountability partner. Who is this lady? This is my grandmother. 101 years old. Full steam ahead into 102. Means the world to me. You talk about an accountability partner. You talk about someone that I can share with, someone that's seen, I think she said 22, 25 presidents in her lifetime. This is Louise Tanner, my accountability partner. When I need someone to talk to, I go to her. And it's so interesting because she's going to be honest with me. I'll go to her and say, you know, I always call her Mama. Mama, I'm having a problem with an employee, student, player, whatever it is. And she'll say, baby, because she calls everybody baby. Baby, you got 3 degrees and you still don't know nothing. I'm like, that's not what I need right now. You know, she said, you got to get to the root of the problem. And the root just might be you. So don't always try and put it on someone else. It might be you. Maybe you're hard to deal with. I know I've had my share of problems with you when you was growing up. Okay, you didn't need to say that, but 150 grandchildren. 102 great-grandchildren. 87 great-great-grandchildren, 65 great-great-great, and I might be missing some greats in there. When we have a family reunion, we need a stadium. She is unbelievable. The backbone of our family. Couldn't do anything without her. You know, a really interesting story about her, and I know I'm going off the script, Christy, wherever you are, I'm going off of it, but she, bless her heart, she took a pair of shoes back to a store that was no longer there. She said, well, it was here last year. They said, ma'am, we used to be Venture, now we're Marshall. She said, it was a store right here, I want my money. They gave her money. They said, we don't even sell shoes here. She said, I want my $29.99 back, please. You don't want to make a 101-year-old lady upset, do you? No, ma'am. Give her money. The matriarch of our family. What is this? Liver and onions. Why would I have a plate? I see some people cringing already. Why would I have a plate of liver and onions? What does that have to do with leadership? Let me tell you. When you're in leadership, you have to celebrate your victories along the way. And it might just be you. You might just be standing by yourself, no one to celebrate with you. Don't let liver and onions, which is something that I can't stand, ruin your day. Here's the story. Man wakes up one day, woman, man, wakes up. First of all, they overslept. Tough day already started. Knew that they had a mountain of things in. So they oversleep. Then they get to the shower and there's no hot water. Then they put on their favorite suit, whatever they put on, their shirt, blouse, skirt, dress. Button pops off, ripping the skirt. Then, after finally getting things together, they come downstairs, and I'll just say my wife, or your husband, or whomever, your significant other. They've taken liver and onions out for dinner. And you're like, why would you take liver and onions out? You know I don't like liver and onions. So that's the backdrop for your day. You've already had a tough start to your day. And you know your day is going to culminate with this delicious looking plate of liver and onions. So you go to work. First obstacle in your way is you have a staff meeting. You know how staff meetings go. Everyone's complaining, no one's happy. I know in our teacher meetings, that was their time to unleash. Talk about kids, talk about problems, talk about school, talk about money, talk about conditions. Any teachers in here? Okay. All right. But you know how staff meeting goes. That's your time to let it go. And we're going to complain and we're not happy about anything. Well, this particular day, staff meeting goes well. Very few complaints. Even the person that, and you know who that person is, even the person that complains about everything didn't have anything to say. So the staff meeting went remarkably well. But you couldn't enjoy it because you know your day is going to culminate with what? Liver and onions. So that victory that you should have celebrated and been happy about or feel pretty good about, you didn't celebrate it. So you go to your next obstacle, performance evaluations. So you go in, and when I was an administrator, I think I had a workload of 20, 25 people that I had to evaluate. I had to evaluate them 6 times during the course of the school year. So, we would grade them on a schedule, on a tier of 1 through 4. 4 being very good, 1 means you need some help in that particular area, whatever the case may be. So performance evaluations, they go remarkably well. Even the people that you didn't score as high, it went well. You had very little friction. A couple of people questioned why you graded them, but there was nothing that you anticipated in regards to difficulty. So now your performance evaluations went well. But you can't celebrate it. You can't celebrate that victory. Why? Because your day is culminating with what? With what? Liver and onions. Liver and onions. So now you've gone through your entire day with victory after victory. Things that have happened that just you should be celebrating along the way as a leader. It's important. You've got to pull those victories out every day, whatever it is. It might be a small thing to someone else, but it's a big thing to you because you know you're going to hear the complaints. You know you're going to hear and have the tough tests that come. So you're on your drive on your way home. Drive home should be a relatively easy thing to do. But you know when you get home that your day is going to culminate with liver and onions. So you pull into your driveway, raise the garage door, make the obligatory walk of shame. A day that should have been full of victories for you as a leader. You know when you open that door what's going to be waiting on you. liver and onions. So you walk in the door, and something's different. You smell, it's like, is that lasagna? Or whatever your favorite food is, I love lasagna. Is that lasagna? Is that homemade breadsticks? Smells pretty good. You walk into the kitchen, is that German chocolate cake sitting on the counter? Honey, when I left this morning, you took out liver and onions. I took out liver and onions, you're right. But the liver and onions were for the neighbors. They asked me to prepare it for them because they like my liver and onions, unlike you. They like my liver and onions. Well, why do you think that I would prepare liver and onions for you when I know you don't like it? So you mean to tell me, again, me talking to my wife, you mean to tell me that I went through the whole day and I could have had all of these victories and all of this because I thought I was going to culminate with liver and onions, and you didn't make liver and onions, you made lasagna. You could have told me to make lasagna before I left. Celebrate your victories. Don't let liver and onions ruin your day. Trust your calling. You've been called. It's so important to keep those things in mind. You've been called into leadership. Find a confidant that you can bounce things off of. I have a 101-year-old lady that I'll call her today because she's going to have, baby, how things go today? What did you mess up? And I'll say, I don't know. They'll let me know. Trust your calling. Believe in yourself. Believe that God has placed you in a position of leadership for a reason. You've been chosen. And trust your calling. Thank you.